Hi, I'm Scott Vansel. I have Tourette syndrome. I just thought it was time I documented my Tourette's and my history with it and what it's like for me individually. Uh, as most of you probably know, Tourette's is, physical or verbal tics, like ones that I've had in the past. When it started, was an eye squinting thing in middle school, and then I started with arm jumping, and I do head snap, and lately I've been doing and stuff like that. But one thing that people with Tourette's will typically say is it's a bad stereotype in Hollywood that people with Tourette's swear. But I fit into that stereotype. It's a separate condition that is associated with Tourette's. It's a little more rare. It's called Coprolalia. There's Coprolalia, Copropraxia, and Coprographia, and I happen to have all three, which is even more rare. Because Coprolalia is the swear words and inappropriate language, and sometimes just phrases and words. It's not always inappropriate. And then Copropraxia is rude gestures or touching. I have the gestures. I flip off the air, and which is bad when I was used to be driving, because I would flip off other drivers and they get mad and honk at me and get road rage and all that. And I also do sexual gestures, not so much anymore, but I still flip off people, but I don't do the sexual gestures anymore. I won't show you what it is in case, some kid gets a hold of this. My most common verbal tics, I used to buck like a chicken, like make sounds of buck, buck, buck. And sometimes the swearing goes along with a physical tic, and sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it is an outburst, sometimes it's quiet, sometimes it's loud, sometimes it sounds like, normal speech, which can be bad. My most common swear words that I say the F word, N word, and C word the most, a lot of times together, and separately. And it really kills me every time I say the N word, and I'm worried, I'll say it around the wrong person, or I'll say it around somebody and he'll hear me and think the wrong thing. I said it in college in a car full of white guys, at least, they weren't black and wouldn't have been so hurt by it. But, I tried to, back then, anytime I told anybody I had Tourette's, they would just not believe me. I never see you tick. I don't think you have Tourette's. And that's just really ableist and upsetting. It really hurt me every time they wouldn't believe me. So with this group, I was like, I tried to play it off like, if I say the F word, I was like, oh, I was singing a song, or I mumble, but this time it was clear as day that I said the N word, and it was in the middle of a sentence, normal speech. So I was like, oh, I was just quoting a comedian, but then they were like, oh, what comedian? And I was like, Chris Rock. And then they were like, what's special? And I was like, and then I told them I had Tourette's, and they were like, no, you're just racist, Scott. So, and that really hurt that they didn't believe me, but it didn't help that I made excuses first, because I just wasn't comfortable telling people I had Tourette's yet, because they never believed me. And I might not have it as bad as some people. Like, I can do this video and be able to focus on it, and some people, have Tourette's. They have tics so much that they can't get through a sentence without, having a tic. And me, it's when I have a lot of anxiety, or I'm really stressed out, or I get out of a stressful situation, and it happens when I'm really anxious or I'm really manic, and I do it all day, every day. It's just I don't always do it around people, and not quite as often as some other people with Tourette's. Fucking. But it kills me when I do like the F slur in front of somebody, and I did it at a party in high school once, and the host was like, yeah, Scott, I don't think you can come back. to my house, and I was like, what? What did I do? And I was like, oh. And I didn't tell them I had Tourette's. I didn't bother. I don't know if it would have made a difference, honestly. I think one of the things that hurt the most was I was in Walmart. It was when I was in high school or a little later. And I met eyes with a girl across the aisle, and she smiled at me, and I had a tick immediately, and I said, I'll unalive you. I have to say unalive because I'm going to put this on TikTok, and they're going to take it down again every time I say the K word. But yeah, I said, I'll unalive you, which was a common thing I said back then. It was a common tick. And she looked so scared, and she just quickly walked away in the other direction. And so like things like that, and like I'll sit down and I'll have a tick and just make a sound and jerk, and somebody at that table next to me in a coffee shop will get up and walk to the other side of the room and set their stuff up there because they're afraid of me, and think I'm crazy, and which I have schizoaffective disorder, and it's kind of offensive to call me crazy anyway, but Tourette's is neurological. It's not a mental health condition, and they don't specifically know what causes it. It is associated with other things like anxiety, depression that come along with having the tics, and a lot of people with autism, which is suspected I have autism. I'm waiting for my evaluation. I'm on the wait list, but a lot of people with autism also have Tourette's. Fucking yeah, like I said, sometimes it's an outburst, sometimes it just fits into regular speech, and I've said all sorts of things. It's not always bad. When I was in college, I said, I'm gonna marry that girl someday, and sometimes it was a long sentence. Usually it's not very long. It's like a short thing, like F the N-words and their wives is something I used to say, and that was terrible. And F-word, N-word, C-word together. I used to say, all are you? And that's dangerous too. I'm glad no one was around when I said that one. But yeah, all K-word you. I said a lot. But again, I can't control it. Yeah, I can't control not saying the F-word or the N-word, or I can't control that. And I warned some of my roommates beforehand, because I lived with a couple of black roommates in LA, and it was the first one I told. I was like, I had a tick in the car. He was like, what the fuck, what was that? And I was like, yeah, I have Tourette's. I have tics in the car a lot, which it's dangerous for me to drive, because I've gotten in a wreck because of Tourette's, and I've gotten a lot of close calls, so I don't drive anymore because of anxiety and Tourette's. I don't even have a license anymore. But it's dangerous for me to drive in the car with people, because I'd drive with my girlfriend and I'd just scream the F word all of a sudden, and she'd swerve and be like, oh my God, and it'd really scare her. But yeah, I was with my roommate, and I said something, and I'm like, I have Tourette's. Yeah, I should probably warn you. I say the N-word a lot. And he was like, please don't. And I was like, I can't control that. And he was like, no one has the N-word as a tick. And I was like, yeah, I do. And he's just didn't really accept that. And my other black roommate that I told was just like, okay, whatever. He's like, that's really weird, but whatever. But I never actually ended up saying the N-word around them. I've never said it in front of a black person. I'm really worried. Actually, in high school I did say it around a black student. It was quiet though, and he was like, "What'd you say?" And I was like, "Oh, no, nothing." Dismissed it, and he accepted that. Didn't question it. But I just always worried about saying it in front of black people and really offending someone, and saying the F slur in front of a gay person, even though I'm pan, but and non-binary, but I just don't want to offend anyone with my language, or like say a bunch of swears in front of kids. It worries me just going out in public. And Yeah, I did leave some ticks in here so you could see them, but I had to cut most of them because or cut them short because I said the N word later. Um, so yeah, I'll cut any inappropriate language out of this so that we can share. Most of my ticks are coprolalia. I do have some physical ticks, not as many as I used to. I feel like the physical ticks have I mean, I feel like the physical ticks are about the same as they used to be. Maybe a little less. You know, ticks change and evolve as you grow and get older. You know, they're just different. I still have the head snap, and I now have a head shaking thing that I do. But most of my ticks are coprolalia. And I think I forgot to talk about what coprographia is. Coprographia is the written. Um, it happens when I write sometimes. When I type, I'll just type the F word or the C word, you know. Or some people have drawing. They draw inappropriate things. I don't do that. Anyway, so if you ever see me in real life, or if I ever actually become successful as an actor, writer, director, then uh, if somebody sees me have a tick or swear or say a slur, like a racial slur or another kind of slur, it's because I have Tourette's. I've never actually said the N word unless it's a tick, or I said it in a play for class once. I wasn't too happy with that. I've made it a point now in my acting career to never say it because I just don't want to. It hurts me enough having a tick and doing it. I don't want to do that in acting. You know, we can have boundaries and that's okay. So I don't want to do that. As far as being an actor and having I have done stuff on set. Usually I don't ruin a take. Sometimes I do, or I'm ticking and I forget a line because of it, or but usually I don't have ticks on camera. Sometimes if I flub a line and I get flustered, I'll have a string of ticks. Like I had an especially bad one when I was in college. I was in a student film, and I just let out a string of expletives and was like shaking my head. And the director was like, "Whoa, you kind of freaked out there." And I was like, "Yeah." I didn't tell him I had Tourette's because, again, I didn't really talk about it back then because there was a lot of shame associated with it for me. But I think it kind of started when my mom first saw me squinting, and we didn't know I had Tourette's back then. So she would be like, she would call them massives because it was like a weird spasm I would have, and she called them massives and was like, "Gotta stop having those massives." And she'd like, every time she'd catch me and she's like, "Stop doing that, stop." And so I don't know if that's why I associate with shame, or just because the coprolalia, and people thinking I'm like horribly racist and stuff like that. It just hurts me. And I really hope I don't hurt other people because that's what I'm really worried about. Okay, hope I was informative enough about what it's like for me to have Tourette's and Coprolalia, Coprographia, and Copropraxia. Um, if I forgot anything, I guess I could do a follow-up video of some other just examples and situations I've been in where I had Tourette's around a person. All right, see you later.